there! I'm Emily.
And I'm Kayla.
And we just want to talk movies and shows, which we have been talking about the past couple episodes, much to Kayla's joy.
Yeah. And today is Kayla's day, because today we're going to be talking about my sweet, precious baby angel baby, Interview with the Vampire, and Rice's Interview with the Vampire, in parentheses 2022, specifically.
The series.
Yeah. High School Musical, the musical, the series.
Yes. Yes. But before we get into that, we have much news, many newses to get into.
Monumental
news that is old news by now, but is still important news to discuss, is the announcement of the Heartstopper movie. When I tell you I cried, that's not an exaggeration. As Kayla will
I was
attest.
there.
Yeah.
I saw it.
I should have recorded my reaction.
I know, I should have.
It's like I found out someone was pregnant.
You were like freshly out of the shower. That was weird.
Yes. I mean, what to say? I'm relieved that it happened. I do find it kind of ironic that the one series I'm like, this works better as a series than a movie, ends up getting a movie. But I am not complaining at all, because I love movies. Yeah. I would love to see this.
It's obvious that the budget was running tight and that they really wanted to just wrap it up. And I'm glad that they fought for something to happen, because a lot of times with Netflix, they are like, oh, one more season would wrap it up, but we're not going to do it because we don't want to.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
This is actually so monumental for me.
Every time I think about it, I get more jitters, and especially since allegedly they're going to start filming like literally a month from today, I think.
Wow.
So that's crazy. And I'm kind of like, is this real? I don't really know.
That makes me upset, because they're taking their sweet time to start filming Interview with the Vampire season 3. It's literally been a year.
Netflix really wants to, I think, get this over with.
I think so.
But you know what? Whatever, because at least we get a proper ending. I mean, I'm a little worried about some things, but
the drama that's to ensue.
Yeah, and people are saying things are going to happen and relationships are going to end by the end of it. And I'm like, why are you saying that? Can you stop?
They can't break up Tao and Elle. If they break up Tao and Elle, I will be at Netflix's door, and I will be
You'll be
something.
Dr. Phil. You'll be like, you're ugly.
You're ugly. You're stupid. Give me $200. I want to kill you.
I don't think they would end it sad. Like, that would be really bizarre.
No. But also I feel like Tao and Elle are the most likely to be casualtized as in terms of relationship. And I just don't like that idea, because I love them.
Well, I forget, somebody gets married. Not in the movie, but like in this universe. Mm-hmm. That
don't Nick and Charlie canonically?
Nick and Charlie are, they're all good. They die together.
We know that.
But there's another couple who, because she drew them like at the couple's wedding, and I can't remember if it's Tao and Elle or if it's Tara and Darcy. It's one of them, and I can't remember which.
I don't want either of them to break up. And I know that it's high school and it's inevitable, but I don't care. It's fantasy land.
But, yeah. We know at least one of those couples is safe.
God. Okay.
The other one I don't know. I can't imagine they'd break up Tara and Darcy. Like, I don't know.
They're like already married practically.
And it would be super easy for me to look this up and confirm which couple it is, but my phone is about to die and I need it for notes, so I'm not going to do that right now.
Understandable,
I will do it later.
Understandable. And you know what? Suspense is delightful. So
yes. Hence why I haven't read much of the volume 6.
Yeah. Anyway, how long did we spend talking about that, huh?
I know, we gotta move on. I have more news. I have much news.
Me too.
In related news of Mr. Kit Connor, I finally got what I asked for when I heard about Warfare and all these lovely men starring in it. I'm like, why would you put all these lovely men in a war movie, which is like my least favorite kind of movie? Well, as I wished, I was like, a horror movie would be much better. Oh my gosh, I got my wish, you guys. So, Kit Connor and what's his name from
Will Poulter.
Will Poulter. I always forget his name.
Me too.
Like, it's something poultry.
He doesn't look like a Will Poulter to me. Maybe Poulter, but not Will.
He looks like a Gabe something.
Gabe. What's his name in The Maze Runner? That's what he looks like to me.
Oh, Gally?
Gally.
Yeah. See, that's a G.
Mm-hmm. That's a G, right there.
He's a real G. Yeah, he is, for sure. Anyway, those two dudes, along with someone else who I don't know, are going to star in a medieval zombie horror movie.
Wow.
Could I have gotten
2 words?
Better wish?
Any 2 words put together more intriguing than that? I don't know.
With Kit Connor and Will Poulter at the helm.
Mm-hmm.
At the helm.
Possibly gay vampires is the only thing that's more intriguing to me.
True. And we'll get into that. But yes, apparently it's about like a bunch of monks at this abbey who, once people start coming to them sick from this virus, turning people into zombies, and there's tension with the monks about, like, some people are like, we need to let them in and help them, and the other people are like, no, we need to protect the sacred whatever.
Oh.
I am hoping that Kit Connor plays the asshole. I really want to see him just play someone really unlikable, you know?
Will Poulter is very good at that too, though.
Yeah,
so
that's true.
See them kind of typecasting
but that would be
him.
such a good twist on it. Like, oh, you thought this?
That would.
No.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm so excited. Finally, another new announcement of our good friend Nicholas Galitzine, always working, as we know. He is going to star in a thriller mystery called The Return of Stanley Atwell. Basically about a bunch of, like, lord rich people. The son allegedly is dead, but oh, here he comes back years later, alive and well. And he's like, where's my fortune? And apparently it's just like one of those stories about a bunch of twists and turns and backstabbings and rich people being insane, which I love. It sounds right up his alley, and I think he's going to be fantastic in it. So I'm very excited for that. Yeah.
Drama.
Yes, rich people drama. You'll love to see it. If all of these movies, on top of everything else, are coming out in 2026, 2026 is going to be an insane year of films.
Truly. I'm going to go quick with my news. So, Sadie Sink, who plays Max in Stranger Things, got nominated for a Tony for being in this new Broadway play called John Proctor's The Villain, and now I really want to see it because it's all about, like, the Salem witch trials. You know,
Ooh.
Obviously they're reading the book, the Crucible. That's what it's called, right?
I think.
About the
Sure.
So it's that it's that type of stuff. I love that type of stuff. But anyway, that was really cool to hear. And then real quick, this is also old news, but I just need to discuss it because it's eating away at my brain. So we got castings. We got castings for Sunrise on the Reaping. We got our Hey Mitch. We got our Lenore Dove. We got our Maisley, and we got our Plutarch. Now, what I love is that Hey Mitch and Lenore Dove are pretty unknown actors. Guess who's playing Maisley Donner, though? McKenna Grace, the one, the only, who terrorizes every blonde girl audition there ever was. She always gets the part. She always books the role. And you know what? I think she'll be excellent in this part. I saw the picture and I was like, You know what? Yes, that's Maisie Donner right there. Anyway, lastly, we got Jesse Plemons as Plutarch, which I've always thought that man looked like Philip Seymour Hoffman, so this is kind of validating. So I'm so ready for this movie. We also haven't gotten any more casting announcements in a while, which is driving everyone insane, including me. I need to know who's going to play Snow. I need to know who's going to play many other characters who I don't want to spoil for Emily. And we have to see you, Jesus. I'm already getting too excited.
I know, we haven't even gotten into it yet.
You aren't prepared for the journey that I'm going to take you on. Shall we get into it?
We probably should. We're 16 minutes.
Jesus Christ. My own journey with Interview with the Vampire started when I was about probably like 8 or 9, and my father was watching the original 90s movie on the TV, and I walked in, and it was the scene where Lestat and Louis are like on the bed with like all the like linens draped, and I was like, what is this? And I was like, I shouldn't be watching it, because I had known what Twilight was, and I knew, a part of me knew that was like tame vampires, and I was like, this is real adult vampires, and I was also like, this is erotic. And so that was my first journey into this story. Later on, I watched the whole film, and it was okay. I don't like Tom Cruise or Brad Pitt, so it didn't do much for me. But I've always been intrigued with the story, and I've always been like, there must be more here. Like, a part of the back of my brain was like, there must be more to this. And I always came back to it and, like, would watch it again, and I was like, meh. But then I'd watch it again. By the way, Kirsten Dunst is the best part of that movie, and she is the moment. She's an icon. And so that was the one part that always drew me back, was Claudia. I've always been interested in Claudia as a character. She's amazing. Then this television series came out on AMC. It was an adaptation of the books, and I would see previews for it, and I'd be like, it's an AMC show. They can't make it better than the movie. So I was like, I'm not going to watch this. It's probably going to be dumb. And then one summer, merely one summer ago, I got bored. I got really bored because I had just quit my job. I was like, I need something to watch. And so I randomly was like, I've heard a couple people saying that season 2 of this show is really good. So I was like, let me flick it on. I watched the first episode of the show, and I'll tell you my literal reaction when the first episode ended. I was sitting on the couch, and I was like, wow. Like, I literally said that out loud. I was like, all right. And then I finished the whole season, and after I was finished, I was like, I only watched it because it was on Netflix, and then the second season wasn't on Netflix, and I was like, well, I guess I'll just have to wait for when they put the next one on Netflix. And then it was like an earworm in my brain, in my ear and in my brain, and I was like, wait a second, I need to figure out what's going to happen next. And I was starting to go insane. So I was like, okay, I just need to watch it. So I watched season 2. Unfortunately, in the middle of season 2, I went to Disneyland. And the whole time we were at Disneyland, I was like, I'm going feral. I need to get back and figure out what happens.
Oh my
and
God.
Alas, eventually, I did have a grand time at Disneyland, by the way. But when I got back, I was sat in front of that TV screen. I finished season 2. And when I tell you, I was like, this is going to be a problem. As soon as season 2 ended, I was like, this is going to be a problem for me. I fear that I've gone over the deep end and I'm obsessed. I have found my new obsession, and it's not going to end anytime soon. And we're here almost a year later now, and the obsession has only grown, and it's unhealthy. And I'm currently in a Vampire Lestat sweatshirt, and I have a Lestat sticker on my water bottle. I'm decked out. I'm ready for the occasion. She's got his
hair kind of like Lestat.
I do. Bit. Oh, you noticed?
Yeah.
This is from the scene where he's like, you have no idea of Claudia's strength.
That's why I did my hair like that for the TikTok. I'm like, we got half ponytail for Lestat.
Can I just say, you were channeling all of them so perfectly, but especially Lestat. I noticed how you did his gay lean, like you did on the fireplace.
Yeah. Like, what's a Lestat pose? I had to get a Lestat jacket, I'm like, this is the rock star one I have.
Yes.
That was very fun to make.
What's your journey with Interview with the Vampire, Emily?
I had heard, like, the name of it when I was first getting into horror. And I was kind of like, at first I was like, ooh, that sounds like my thing. But then, of course, I'm like, well, the movie surely won't, be open with how gay it is. And sure enough, not really. So I was like, boring, whatever, don't care. And yeah, I watched it just because, like, I should watch Interview with the Vampire.
Classic vampire film.
Yeah, and I was just like, not for me. And yeah, then I remember when the show came out, I was like, oh, well, now since it's 2020, whatever, I'm sure they'll be very open about all the gay, which I was happy about. But I was like, a show? I'm like, oh, of course, they had to make it into a show. So I was like, ugh, yeah, not interested. And yeah, then all of a sudden I hear Kayla talking about it nonstop. And I was like,
literally the entire time we were in Disneyland, I'd be like, I want to watch Interview with a Vampire.
I was just like, will you shut it now? I was like, oh, well, Kayla has recommended a good show or 20 in her time, so it's probably pretty good. And then I watched, the last 2 episodes with you of season 2.
I think you watched, like, the last 3, I think.
And I was like, oh, yeah, this is pretty good. I'd like to watch the whole thing and experience the full emotional blow.
Because I was freaking out.
Yeah, I was still, just from watching the little bit, was like, whoa, oh my god.
Yeah, when the reveal came, you were also like, what?
Yep. So I was like, oh, this is probably good. And, yeah. Finally watched it, and I love it as well. I also became obsessed for, like, the couple weeks that we watched the first 2 seasons. I was like, it was all I could think about. I'm like, oh my god,
literally
gotta finish up get back home from work so we can watch Interview with the Vampire. Oh my god.
It's like a drug. It's bad.
Yes. Had dreams there was all week. I'm like, I can't get it out of my head.
So yes, as we all know, this property is also a bunch of books. It's also a very well-known movie. I have now read a good chunk of the books. Oh, you have some in your hand? Perfect. When you go into this show, I mean, for me, before I'd even read the books, when I watched the show, I was like, this is everything that an adaptation of this story is supposed to be. I was like, this is what I've always, when I was watching the first one, this is what I wanted it to be. So that was another reason that I fell in love with it. But it is, I would say almost, it's more faithful to the books than the movie, even though the plot and events in it are very different. Because I think they hold on to the essence of every character really well. And also, obviously, they explore the queer themes in way more depth. The biggest change up that we have going straight into this season is Daniel Malloy, the original interviewer of the vampire, is an old man. And it's also set in present times. In the original, obviously, the book was written in the 70s, and the movie takes place in the 70s, even though it came out in the 90s. Ooh, very interesting, Kayla. But this show is set in modern times, which makes sense. If you're going to update the adaptation, you got to set it in modern times. But they also follow through with that, with saying, yes, an original interview did happen in the 1970s, but now this story is Daniel's coming back after like 50 years to redo it, because the last one didn't end well. As we all know from the original story, at the end, Louis, like, attacks Daniel. Yeah. So in this one, he's like, hey, Bess, do you want to come back? And Daniel's God. Like, okay.
Until he gets there and discovers someone there that would have made him say hell no.
We'll get to that. This man, okay. But anyway, I really love that they do this. At first, I was like, I wasn't mad, but I was like, why are they doing this? That's weird that they have the 70s thing still happening. But I think it's a really cool way to, like, obviously Daniel's older and wiser, and so he is much more of, like, he challenges Louis more than the original Daniel ever would have been able to. So we get a great dynamic out of that, first of all.
A lot more interesting.
And also, by setting it, I know that they probably, going into writing the series, didn't think of this. I don't know. I don't know when they started writing it, but by having it set in 2022, the pandemic has happened. And so that is kind of a story beat in the first season. They kind of do drop it in the second season, which I find kind of odd. But in the first season, they go into it a lot. And so there's, like, an interesting, like, context to the whole vampire thing. Humanity is, like, everyone's dying and they're, like, yearning for that quick fix. This is the time for vampires to be here, to be, like, immortality. And so then we get this whole background plot of this great conversion where, like, the vampires are scheming to turn basically everyone into vampires. That was not in the books, at least as far as I've gotten. So it's an interesting commentary to have. On to the story. So obviously Louis invites Daniel to this weird penthouse in Dubai. It's a totally different setting, and we're like, whoa, privacy laws are better here. So, like, it's mysterious. They fly Daniel in on a private jet and stuff. And then we get into the story of Louis' life before he became a vampire, when he met the vampire Lestat, and their companionship in New Orleans. And can I just say the vibes are immaculate? Oh, most of season 1 takes place, obviously it all takes place in New Orleans, the flashbacks, but it almost always takes place at night, obviously. And there's just this beautiful, like, golden glow. The music is there, like, there's the old shabby buildings, like, you are transported right back into 1910s New Orleans. And I want to go to New Orleans so bad because of this show, because it seems so cool. And also, speaking of the music, the score in this show is top tier. When that violin hits, oh, it gets me every time. I listen to this score all the time, in my car, in my headphones. When I walk on the beach here in the UK, I put on that score, I walk on the beach, and I'm like, I am epic. I feel incredible.
I am Lestat.
Also, going off of this being an adaptation of the books, like I was talking about, this being made after all of the books have come out. Anne Rice has since passed, so, like, we have basically all the books we're going to get about these vampires. And so this show being made now, it can take all of that information and put it in the show in really subtle ways. So there's, like, certain lines that Lestat will say, for example, that are lines from, like, 4 books down the line, or he'll make references to things that have happened that, like, if you haven't read the books, you would not know what he's talking about. And there's even there's a character from Queen of the Damned who shows up in season 1 so every time I rewatch this series, it's been after I finish one of the books, so I can, like, point out new things every time, new references that they're making, which I love. And also, because we have all of this information from the books, we do get the essence of these characters so perfectly and completely represented in the show, even though, like I said, it's different. What's happening is different. The time period is different. They've updated lots of things. They've made it more gay. They've made Louis a black Creole character where he was, like, a white slave owner in the original story. But that makes Lestat's character very fun, because obviously he's a very different character in the first book as he is to all the other books. And so they kind of, like, meld all of his character together. So he gets a lot more of, like, that dark humor and just being a wackadoodle sometimes. And I think dark humor is Sam Reed's specialty. I've seen him in lots of things. And when he does dark humor, he just makes me cackle. He just makes me giggle. He's so good at that. A specific moment of dark humor that I love is the beginning of episode 2, where Louis has just turned into a vampire and Lestat has just killed a priest. I'll get more into that. And they're trying to, like, bury the body, and he's, like, trying to shove it into this tomb, and it's not going right. And Louis, like, falling over because he's still turning into a vampire.
You get classic slapstick.
Yeah, we get slapstick. we get some iconic lines like Siri pause and you have to drain her first, Louis. Some great one-liner.
Siri pause. That one kills me. I want a t-shirt with Siri pause on it.
Yes. Just like his silhouette with the plank and then Siri pause.
Yeah. Oh, God.
It's so and good. Then, of course, we get the moment on the train where Lestat, like, beheads someone and is saying, "Tickets, please," with his mouth. That's classic, like, Tale of the Body Thief Lestat. So, like, they're taking all this inspiration from the books and putting them into Lestat. And I love it. They also do make him more evil, though, which is interesting. And I kind of like.
Yeah. We support women's wrongs.
Yes. Well, I don't necessarily support his wrongs. I don't support
Louis' wrongs when he kills cats.
I don't support that wrong. You know what? I do support Louis killing Lestat, though. We'll get into that. We're so spoiling and jumping ahead.
Oh, yeah.
But that's okay.
Spoilers if you haven't watched.
On to Louis, obviously. Jacob Anderson is the star. He gives an incredible performance. And I think his character is also interesting because Louis is not necessarily an important character beyond the first book. So they really can they have a lot of creative liberty of where they have him go after this season, which I'm excited to see. But also, they've had to, like, add a lot more to his character. As I said before, his very essence is still there. He's still depressed. He's still gloomy. He still has a lot of Catholic guilt. And he's just a man trying to make his way in the universe. And
yes. Yes, he is.
That's classic Louis to me. But also, of course, as I said, they make Louis a black character. They set it in the 1910s in the Deep South, obviously. And so that adds a lot of complexities to his character and also to, like, what being a vampire is to him. And also, obviously, making his sexuality more prominent. That also adds to everything that he's going through. So I love it. He's Louis in the books, but so much more. And when he goes into revenge mode, some of my favorite scenes. Some of my favorite
me too.
episodes. And that's very Louis in the books, but I feel like they, like, really elaborate on that in the show. So for me, though, the main thing that I love about the entire show, and especially season 1, but I actually know the entire show, is the thread of their little found family in New Orleans, and their cursed, doomed found family, to be more specific. Yeah. As I've explained in the past, each of these characters is looking for connection and love because it's very lonely to be a vampire. And it's very difficult to be a vampire. And these three, Louis, Lestat, and Claudia, you see in certain scenes, like, what they could be. They found a little family, and it's beautiful sometimes. But you know, if you've read the books, and most of us know the story, that it's not going to turn out well. And it pretty quickly devolves. But you can see that each of them really wants this, but they just have so many of their own inner, like, things that are messed up about them that it's just not going to work out. And it's really sad to watch because you really are rooting for them. We were all rooting for you.
We're all rooting for you.
But they just failed. My girl Claudia has just failed time and time again.
Yep.
And again, we know, like, we come into the show knowing all of Lestat's backstory too, which makes it really heartbreaking to watch, especially if, like, you read the books and you go and watching the show. You know why he makes every single decision that he makes. Obviously, I can't support it, but I can explain it. And so it's really sad to see. It's generational trauma, I'm telling you, and it's a beautiful story of that. And also breaking the cycle in season 2. Claudia almost breaks the cycle. We'll get to that.
We were so close.
So we learn, even in the first season, that Lestat's turning was a very traumatic event. He was basically, like, kidnapped and tortured for a while and turned against his will. So basically, like, in the book, it's a very clear metaphor for, like, sexual assault his maker also like killed himself in front of him, so he got no one to teach him how to do anything. So you can just follow that thread through every decision that he makes, not being a very compassionate or caring father to Claudia. We also know his backstory with Nikki by the time we get to season 2, which was a doomed fledgling that he made, and so we know why he is so resentful of Claudia, because he knows exactly what's going to happen with Claudia. He knows that she's doomed, so he doesn't really even want to get close to her. And so it's so sad. But Claudia and Lestat are also so alike, and there's so many parallels that have been drawn, and I'm going to point out every single one. I'm going to point them all out because I love them so much. And it's so sad. And then Louis just here. He wants Claudia to be his daughter, and out of very selfish motivations, because he wants to connect into the human world. He even went, before he turns her, he says, like, my redemption, my Claudia. Like, he is using her to feel better about himself. But also, he wants a family, and so it's also coming from a wholesome place. But you just know that this is not going to go well, and it does not go well at all, and it's very sad. I'm going to already come out with a quote that I love. Obviously, Claudia, she wants some guidance. She wants to figure out where she comes from, and so she goes off on her own for a while to try and search for that. And she writes this thing in her diary that Louis is now telling Daniel, and she says, I spend my time following Louis and Lestat now that I am my own woman, with no obvious sense of why I follow them, other than that meaning slowly disintegrates without them. Oh, so heartbreaking. And that really sums up their whole dynamic.
Yeah.
I guess I'll go into favorite episodes after, if you want to give general thoughts before we do that.
Oh, well, I love a dark romance myself. Mm-hmm. And I love a story that can be just very unashamed of, you're gonna see exactly how messed up these people are, how horribly manipulative and toxic and terrible this relationship is, while at the same time showing you, like, just romantic as hell scenes. And still by the end of the show you're like, I am rooting for them? Question mark.
I know. It's messed. That's what gothic horror does best.
Yes.
You're like, why do I love this so much? It reveals a lot about ourselves.
Yeah, and so many stories are afraid to do that. They're either afraid to go, like, too messed up, so they keep it like, oh, it's pretty romantic and cute. Or they are afraid to show the romantic side. They're like, no, it's just bad. You just don't like it at all. Terrible. And this show very much does both successfully. And that is a successful dark romance, in my opinion. Because obviously, like, we all know that we're not meant to take this as the words of relationships. Like, these are literal vampires. So
I do not want Louis and Lestat's relationship.
No. But obviously a relationship between vampires, like, that is going to be crazy. It's not going to be like a regular human relationship. A regular argument is not going to go the way it does for humans. So I like that the show is just very open and unashamed and doesn't make you feel stupid or bad about enjoying the characters and rooting for them, but is also just very honest. Like, yeah, look at them literally rip each other apart emotionally and physically.
I love you so much that I want to slit your throat and burn you alive. Like, that's the level.
And, like, literally. Getting. And, yeah, the levels of just insane behavior. You get stalking, you get manipulation, all of those amazing things. And it really helps when you have, first of all, the characters are written very likably, but they're also portrayed by very charismatic actors. So both of those things you need in order for it to be successful. Because we all, like, let's not lie, we all love Lestat. We all want to see him thrive.
He's my favorite character, I'm sorry.
Comparing him to a character like Armand, who is in the show very much meant to be pretty much the same as Lestat, but shown in a very different light. And again, that's just so fun because obviously they're both messed up, but they're still both
bad for Louis.
There's one clearly I'm rooting for over the other, and that's just so much fun to me. I love that. Mm-hmm. So that's like the whole thing about this show. It's just like it's a lot of fun, but it also hits those emotional beats, like you said, perfectly. And I think that's especially in horror a very hard balance to strike, but somehow they manage.
And they feel real still. The characters somehow they manage. The characters still feel very grounded somehow in all of that.
Yeah.
My favorite episode of season 1 is episode 1, In Throes of Increasing Wonder. Also another like juicy fact about the show is all of the episode titles are direct lines from the book, which is like, it's for the book fans. People get mad. Still, people say, why did they make the relationship gay? They weren't even gay for each other in the books. Did you read the same book that I did? I feel like I'm being gaslit every time I read a comment like that.
Media illiteracy.
So anyway, episode 1's my favorite. My favorite of season 1. I already explained how much I love the changes and the additions to Louis' character, but a lot of that is especially explored in this episode. Because it's a show, we get a lot more details about Louis' human life, and we get to see him, we get to see his family, his mom, his brother, who was retconned from the movie and turned into a wife. Like, whatever. I'm still mad about that. Anyway, I love his relationship with Paul. Paul is, he's very devout Catholic, and he also has schizophrenia that Louis he's the parentified child. We all know it. He has to take care of Paul. He has to look out for Paul. But he also has to look out for the whole dang family because he's the oldest man. And the only way that he's a businessman, and he finds a great way to earn some money to keep his family from going broke and starving. And the only way he can do that is by being a pimp. And no, it's not great. But we have to keep that thread of Louis having like cognitive dissonance over what he's doing as a career, because he was a slave owner in the books. Here he's a pimp. So
take your pick.
Yeah, take your, I don't know. Anyway, and his mother resents him for supporting their family through this way. But I don't see her getting up off her ass and doing anything. People don't want to get up off their asses and work anymore.
Oh, God.
But anyway, that's our family dynamic. So Louis just got all these things on his shoulders. He also has to be sucking up to these white dudes on the city council so that his business can keep afloat. It makes Louis' decision to end his life and go into this companionship with Lestat so much more compelling. I mean, you do root for it in the original story because it's vampires, but like you're like, yes, I would too. I would take the dark gift too, Louis. You are so right for this.
Yep.
We also, in this episode, get the courtship between Louis and Lestat. It's not so, like, love at first sight, let me suck your blood, like it is in the book.
I thought you were going to say something else.
Well, and that too.
I was like, oh, God.
They really do, like, Louis keeps to his Catholic practices. He has a courtship with Lestat. He invites Lestat over to meet his mom and have a family dinner with him. And then they do consummate their relationship before they're married. But then they do get married in a church.
Oh,
it's
that's
literally
true.
like we're watching an old-time courtship. It's like a period romance, but it's vampires. And I am obsessed. I can't describe how obsessed I am with this. Oh, yes, Lestat is definitely hunting Louis, and like it kind of stalking, and it's kind of creepy. It's a gothic romance, but we also see that like Lestat really listens to Louis and like understands him. Maybe not. He is a white man after all, so he doesn't understand him fully. So he's like, these dudes don't respect you, but you're so cool. Like, what's up with this? And Louis like, you know what? Yes, you're correct, sir.
I do deserve more.
Yeah. So yes, and as Louis says, for the first time in my life, I felt seen. And pop off, King. That's so true.
Are we falling for the grooming? I think we might be, but you know what?
We might be, and you know what? I would too.
Yeah.
Anyway, on to the end of the episode. Paul commits suicide. So Louis is really at rock bottom, and he wants to die too. So he goes to the church. He goes to a church. He tries to confess his sins. I laid down with a man. He said,
haven't we all?
No.
Said the priest.
I know the priest really. He's like, me too.
He's like, oh, same.
So anyway, yes, he's confessing to this priest. An incredible monologue from Jacob Anderson. This was the moment where I was like, oh yes, he's taking it. And then what happens next? Lestat freaking shows up because he is always around the bend. He kills the priest that Louis was confessing to by sucking out his blood. And it's so classic vampire. We get our first like classic vampire sucking the blood scene. We get the fangs. We get the blood dripping down the face. I'm like, okay, we're here. We're in it. There's another priest. What's Lestat gonna do? He's gonna freaking speed walk, punch his fist through the priest's face. Practical effect, by the way. After he puts his fist out, it's a practical dude with a gaping hole in his head. Amazing. And then he's like, Louis, can we get married? No, actually,
and
he also
yes.
has a yeah, he has a banger monologue where he's like, what are you doing? You let these people walk all over you. I'm the deferential businessman, the loyal son. I know the monologue word for word, yes.
These are going to be your wedding
vows.
Though?
True. And then he's like, you know what, though, Louis? If you take this dark gift and be my companion, you will have power and you will be loved forever. And you can, and I quote, be all of the beautiful things you are and be them without apology for all eternity. And girl, when I heard that line, I was like, this is my show, I think. That's my favorite line ever. It sums up like what vampirism means for this show. It is accepting all of those parts of yourself that you're afraid of and like just living your life to the fullest. And Louis takes a while to come around to that, as we will see, but he does eventually.
He gets stuck in a couple abusive relationships along the way, but
yeah. After this beautiful monologue, Louis kisses Lestat, and they're on, mind you, an altar in a church. So it's basically their wedding.
Yes.
And then we get the turning. Lestat turns Louis into a vampire, and we get the most beautiful ending dialogue of an episode. This is the pilot episode, by the way, and one of the greatest pilot episodes I've ever witnessed. Breaking Bad is up there. Interview with the Vampire is up there. They're like my two favorites. Yeah, I'm telling you, AMC has some bangers. Anyway, I will quote the ending dialogue. I opened my eyes, and it was then that I realized the drum was my heart, and the other drum had been his. I saw him sitting a length away from me, radiant, and we sat there for some time in throes of increasing wonder. The end, the beginning, fade to black. Incredible. And that was when I was like, wow. Like literally out loud. I was like, okay, they did that. What's your favorite episode first? Is it the
finale?
Which one is it? Okay. So then we can go right into yours after this. I thought it might be.
Yep.
So, in the book and the 90s movie, Lestat, of course, we've skipped over a couple episodes where Lestat is pretty awful to Louis. Obviously, there's resentment there because of Claudia. He's like jealous of her because Louis seems to love her more, which, like, can you blame him? And there's cheating that's been going on since the beginning. There's this whole fight that they have because Louis wants to leave with Claudia, and it's very awful. He drops Louis out of the sky, and Louis has to take like weeks to recover. It's very bad. Lestat is not a good guy. And so at the end, they plot to kill him, as in the book and the movie. But in the book and the movie, Claudia poisons like 2 twin boys, and then Lestat's like, ooh, yummy, and he he drinks their blood, and then he gets poisoned.
Don't say ooh, yummy when saying 2 young boys.
Yeah, you're right. He gets poisoned, and then Claudia slits his throat. We know from the beginning of this show, as I explained the whole epic finale in episode 1, that this show is very extra about everything that it does. So instead of just randomly one night Claudia brings home a couple of poisoned boys, no. This entire episode is Mardi Gras, and they throw a ball, and they plan to have a feast on pretty much all the rich people in town, just kill them all, and then skip town. And it's this elaborate, we get to see them like planning out this ball, and everyone is sort of double-crossing each other because Lestat thinks he's in charge. He's like, oh, I'm going to plan this ball, and then we're going to eat, and I'm going to have so much fun. And Claudia's like, yeah, but except you're going to die at the end. And then Louis's like, I really like Lestat still, and I have to, like, woo him over, but I'm also falling for him. And Claudia's like, Jesus Christ. And there's so much drama. But what I love about it is ultimately the 3 of them do have to come together to plan a party. And you get to see their dynamic as like an epic trio. And again, it's really sad because you can see the potential of what they could have been, even though you know that they're plotting against each other. You're like, they are so iconic as a trio, though. Anyway, okay, first of all, we get a waltz at the party. We get this beautiful waltz between Louis and Lestat. What does he say? I wanted him dead. I wanted him all to myself. Now that is Gothic romance at its finest, ladies and gentlemen.
Yes, I love it.
We get the beautiful waltz. Yes, it's amazing. Then we go back home for dinner, for them at least. And we get the massacre scene. Oh. And there is some great gore in this scene. Louis rips off a guy's jaw. Once again, he's letting out this anger that he's had to process for all these years. It's not over after episode 3. Let it be known. He's ripping off a guy's jaw. And you know what? He's justified in that. Claudia rips out a guy's eyeball. Lestat is like, he does this little thing where he like beckons this lady forward with his finger, and then he like grabs her and eats her. Oh, it's amazing. And then we do get, ultimately, the callback to the original killing where Claudia does poison 2 adult twins. Or she poisons one of them. There's a whole switcheroo where ultimately someone else was poisoned that Lestat already drank. And so even though he does know that this plot is happening, Claudia one-ups him because she's Claudia and she's iconic for that. Yep. And Lestat ends up being poisoned. Louis slits his throat in this version, which I love because the very first moment that Lestat sees Louis holding up a blade to his brother's throat because his brother's like getting involved in his business and Louis has to draw the line somewhere. And Lestat sees that and he's like, yes, that's my husband.
And like, so please do that to me.
Exactly. In this moment, he's using like the same weapon to slit Lestat's throat. You know that Lestat is like, I'm so proud of you right now.
He's like, I'm so turned on right now.
Truly. Just a beautiful scene, like all the blood against the white and like the Gothic romance of it all, of him killing Lestat but still being in love with him. And then we get the reveal that Daniel figures it out. He's like, you did not burn Lestat, you did not kill Lestat because they put him in a coffin in the dumpster where there's a bunch of rats and he can eat the rats and come back to life. Ooh, so easy. That's such a cold kill, Louis. Louis spared his lover's life, and I just love it. And oh, one more thing. Do you remember that guy who's been lingering around in the background in Dubai this whole time? His name's Rashid, and he's like kind of mysterious, and Daniel keeps being like, who the heck are you? Well, we find out at the very end of this episode that man, his name is not Rashid, his name is Armand. And we will find out more about him in season 2, folks. We will. And let me just say, all these reveals, beautifully executed. Everything was beautiful about this. What do you have to say, Emily?
Well, how could I follow that up?
I feel like I've been rambling. I don't know if any of what I just said makes sense.
Well, pretty much everything you said about the last episode is why it's my favorite. There is nothing I like more than a ball, except a massacre. So, you give me a ball and then a massacre? I mean, it's the reason why Carrie is one of my favorite movies of all time. There's nothing better than a grand party, gorgeous fits, a beautiful romantic waltz, and then just the most insane, gruesome murder you'll ever seen. Just wild in your face, like, oh my god, so much is happening
much blood
right now. Yes, and then beneath all that, you get that the twists and turns. Ooh, how are they going to get one over on Lestat? Does he know? I don't really know, because it seems like he's ahead of them, but are they really ahead of him the whole time? Oh, I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. It takes me back to my days of the Vampire Diaries, when they were always trying to get one over on Damon Salvatore by having him drink the vervain-laced blood.
That's true.
But he always was, like, one step ahead. He's like, no, I got you. Until finally they got one over on him. And after watching this, I'm like, I can very much see the correlation between these two stories. I love it. Like you said, everything with the dark romance of it all. I love that Lestat, see, he's my favorite character because, not only because of his lovely personality, but because he's so, like, this guy in real life is just so pathetic and, like, oh, dude, cringe, like, get out of here. But you see, because we know everything about his character, and he's a fictional character at that, you feel so much sympathy, and you're just like, this is really sad, because, like, he's so insecure, and even when he's, like, getting ready, you think, to kill Louis, he comes back a few days later, or however long it was like, hi, can you take
I'm
me
nothing
back?
without you.
It's like, oh, please. And they're like, no. And he's like, okay. And then does, like, the classic, sends him awkward gifts and so many awkward beats. I'm like, I feel like I'm watching a Lifetime stalker movie. But at the same time, just the gothicness and the vampireness of it all makes it just kind of adorable to watch. You're just like, oh, look at this, like, pathetic little bean who's who did all these horrible things, but at the end of the day is just like, I just want to be loved. I'm like, oh my god, what is happening?
Because deep down, that's what he always needed but never got. So it's really sad, but you also can't excuse anything he's done, because it's actually so awful.
Yes.
So it is just, like, such a sad story.
Yeah. And that's why we love fiction. That's why I love fiction and horror in particular, because you can do, like, these messed up things, but still make it like, oh, I do feel sympathy, though. Whereas in real life, you're like, get out.
Yeah.
But
if I ever met Lestat in real life, the first thing I would do would give him a swift kick to the nuts.
And restraining order. But yeah, it's, as far as in this fictional world of vampires and supernatural beings, it's very entertaining to watch. And so when it culminates in this last episode of them, like, are they finally going to do it? Are they going to kill him? But is he going to kill them? I don't know. And then just almost the triumph and then heartbreakingness of it. It's like, oh, because you remember where we started was super romantic with that lovely bloody wedding we had, and now it's ending in murder and betrayal.
A bloody funeral.
It was so entertaining and very fun, and also, like you said, with the final reveal, oh, who's this dude Armand? And it's like, I don't know, what are we gonna get into next? It's like, oh.
One, if you haven't read the books, you're like, what the hell's going on?
Yeah.
Why did he says, meet the love of my life, Armand. What the hell does that mean?
Like,
and then,
love of his life?
If you have read the books, you know exactly who Armand is, and he is not present by the time Louis does the interview in the books. So you're like, what the hell is going to happen now? We leave it off there and we go into season 2, shall we? Yes. This season starts with a banger of an episode called What Can the Damned Really Say to the Damned? The damned, I mean, to the damn. The damn. A lot of people say this episode is boring. It actually on Reddit got voted least favorite episode in the fandom. I don't understand that.
It's yes, my least favorite.
Is a bit disconnected. Okay, what the heck ever.
If it's the one I'm thinking of, yes.
So it is a bit disconnected from the main plot of the show. I will give you that. So like in a way you could call it boring because it doesn't have a whole lot to do with what we get into ultimately. But it is essential. It's essential. And that is because, first of all, it starts off, Louis and Claudia have made their escape from New Orleans, and they are in the middle of World War II traveling to Eastern Europe, but across Europe, basically. And the score in this season takes a step up from season 1. It's almost like a ballet, the way it plays out in this first episode. Like, we start with this, like Victorian-esque strings, and like Louis just describing his time during the war, and like, oh, it sucked so much, but Claudia did everything for me. And then the music cuts off, and you're like, whoa, that's kind of weird. And then Louis starts walking in this misty forest, and then you see like a white lump on the ground, and oh shit, it's Lestat in his death garb, lying on the ground in the pose of Jesus Christ. And that's just the perfect way to reintroduce this dynamic. So, yep. It's not the real Lestat, let me just say. It's a hallucination that Louis is having of Lestat, and this carries out through the entire season. He's going to be seeing Lestat. Lestat's going to be haunting the narrative. It's not over. He is going to be there to torture him. And this is some great gothic romantic dialogue when he says, Louis like, if you were going to kill me, if you were alive, you would have killed me already. And Lestat says, oh, love, I'm merely waiting until you're happy. So hurry up, mon cher. Oh. And then we get the violin coming back in, and it's like a romantic violin. And then we get Louis saying, I had taken 7,000 souls by then, but Lestat was the only one that felt like murder. I'm going feral in my little seat. Claudia, she just wants to find more vampires. Every vampire that she's met has kind of sucked. So she's like, I just want to find one that's good. And she finds a woman vampire out here. And she's like, yay, I found more like me, and she's not that bad. And then she throws herself into a fire in front of her. Who else had that happen to them? Let's think about this. Lestat, his maker, threw himself into a fire in front of him. Our first parallel, folks. Our first parallel. Other than both of their anger issues. But, yeah. Oh well. And so, for me, the episode sets up Claudia's journey in particular, because she latches on to everyone that they find in Paris when they eventually get to Paris. And a lot of people are like, it doesn't make sense that Claudia would fall for the coven. Yes, it does. Shut up. She's so God. Desperate to find family that accepts her and accepts themselves, because Louis doesn't really. And so it makes sense that she latches onto this group of vampire theater nerds who love being vampires. Like, I can't make it make any more sense than that. Anyway, the end of this episode, we get one of my favorite scenes where Louis has decided, let's get out of here. Eastern Europe has not worked out. Let's go to Paris. And he's talking to Claudia, and he's like, you know what? Even if we don't find good vampires, I'm going to be here for you, and it's going to be you and me forever, and I'm not going to leave you. And I love you. Basically, that's the gist of his monologue. And you see Claudia looking at him, and you can tell that she, like, doesn't fully believe what he's saying, but she really wants to, so she's like, okay. And then the camera starts panning over. What's this? No one else is in this cart, are they? Wait a minute. Lestat is sitting there, and he's looking at Louis, while Louis is saying, me and you and me. Oh,
that's rough.
Haunting the narrative, setting up the entire dynamic that we're going to see throughout the rest of the season. This is the perfect way to open season 2. Yes, there are much better episodes this season, but I do love this as a starter.
I was just kind of bored. I mean, I know why everything was like, it made sense to me, the stuff that happened, but I just didn't really care.
Yeah. I mean, they do introduce a lot of characters who never come back.
Yeah.
So I can see...
That was my issue.
So what's this?
I liked all the stuff with,
I can see that.
Lestat and everything, but then I'm like, oh, we're in this random place now? And I'm like, okay, here's this dude, this lady. I'm like, why do I care about any of this? And then it's over, and I'm like, well, that was kind of a waste of my time, but anywho.
Now we're in Paris. Anywho.
Yeah. It's all good.
Also, by the way, we get introduced by this piece in the score called "The Whole World Was Ready to Return" at the end of this episode. It's this like flittery violin piece. Again, the music in this episode in particular is like a masterpiece to me. And this piece will come back later on in the season. To me, it's like Louis and Claudia's theme, and it's like really hopeful, but also like there's a tinge of tragedy beneath it. So it like totally sums up their relationship, which I love. So this season, the Dubai stuff gets a lot more interesting because now Armand has been revealed and Daniel is a Lumond hater. And I love to see it. He literally looks disgusted. Yes, he looks disgusted anytime they show affection towards each other. He ultimately manifests the downfall of their entire relationship. Daniel is a warrior for us all. And there's just this great little game of mind chess going on in Dubai throughout this entire season where Armand is like, can feel that they're losing control of the interview. And Daniel is way too onto him and onto them. And he's like, Louis, we have to come up with a plan. He's too smart for us. We have to come up with a plan. We need to like fully psychological warfare launched on this man. They come up, they bring up all of his worst memories whenever he like gets too close to the truth and like basically torture him. And that triggers some memories in Daniel that we will get to during episode 5, which is the best episode of television that was ever created. Yes, I'm right. If you disagree, you are wrong. So anyway, that in the background to chew on while we deal with Paris. So we get to Paris. Claudia is originally kind of down because obviously she's still getting over the whole woman throwing herself into a fire thing. And this is one of my favorite lines when she says, like, Louis's happy and he wants her to be happy too, and she's tired of her emotions depending on Louis and their weird codependent relationship. And she says, maybe I want to be joyfully joyless, the forever switch of wild opposites at play. It's just, yes, Claudia, I feel that way. I feel you.
Yep.
And good thing for Claudia, we get Madeline this season, who is one of my favorite characters. She is kind of a nothing burger in the book. I'm sorry. She's there to be like Claudia's mother figure, and like Claudia kind of moves on from Louis and goes to her. In this season, no. We take Madeline, and she's a dressmaker for one. She makes dresses for Claudia. She has a lot of sass. She's beautiful. She is everything. And Claudia and her have like a more romantic dynamic, which is so beautiful. It's the purest romance that we have in the show. It's actually the one pure romance that we have in the show. Yeah. And so it does serve as like a nice break from, as much as I love the toxic goings-ons of Lestat and Lumond, Claudeline is where my heart truly lies. Like, that's the relationship that I want. Madeline survived through World War II. Her entire family died during it and before it. She was really lonely during the war. She met a Nazi soldier, and she had a relationship with him. And, of course, that was viewed as, like, she was being a traitor and a slut. And so she was very much shamed in her community for that, and still is. They, like, draw swastikas on her shop all the time. They don't like her. And this adds, like, all of these characters have, like, morally gray stuff going on with them. And so that makes her fit right in with them. And also, like, makes her kind of a kindred spirit to Claudia, because they're both women who just don't fit in and people don't tend to like them within their own communities. And it's such a beautiful connection that they have. She eventually does find out Claudia's a vampire. And I love how she's worried at first. She's like, what the heck? And then she's like, do you want to suck some of my blood? She's like, that's basically her reaction. She's like, how does it taste? You want some? And then she wants to become a vampire herself. She kind of does give Bella vibes, where it's like, I was always meant to be a vampire. That's kind of the vibes that she's giving in the best way, because I do love Bella Swan. There's this whole coven thing. So obviously, they're in Paris. There's a Paris coven, and they are a theater troupe, which, name something more iconic than that. We get Santiago. The first moment that we go into the theater, and he's on stage, and he's doing his freaking monologue, I was like, wait a minute. This is going to become an unhealthy obsession for me. Because this is everything that I love. I love vampires, and I love theater. And later on, we do get a trial, so it becomes a courtroom drama, theater, vampire thing. What more could you want? I can't think of anything. The coven is also really fun. They don't make them, too notable as characters, each one of them, except for Santiago, which I like because, we don't have time to be focusing on everyone. But you do get, background sort of drama that they have. They have, a love triangle going on with Santiago. There's a father-son relationship that's kind of strained. We have, the writer, Sam, who is, obsessed with the theater, and he will do all of the chores for the theater. They all have their quirks, and it's really fun. It's just a fun little thing to have in the background. And obviously, Claudia falls in love, as she should, as I would. And it's really sad because she does sort of have this relationship with Santiago that's kind of fun, and they have a cute back and forth, but the whole time Santiago clocks that there's something up with these two. They're hiding stuff. Who's their maker, and why isn't he here with you now? What happened to him? Did he really kill himself, or did something else occur? Oh, by the way, we find out that Lestat founded the freaking theater troupe. So
you can't get away from him.
Literally haunting the narrative at every single freaking turn. Armand is now the leader of the troupe, and that is where Louis meets him. Their romance, honestly, as much as you know the whole time that something is off, something is unsettling. Obviously, we have the dynamic of Lestat always lurking in the background. And Armand figures it out pretty soon that Lestat was Louis' maker. And he's like, this complicates things because I think you killed him, and that's against coven rules. You can't do that. We have to kill you if you do that. But Armand, he's a very interesting guy. He has a very interesting backstory that we find out a little later, where he was basically sold into slavery really young, and then put in a brothel really young, and then sold to his maker, Marius, who abused him and, pimped him out. He had a really interesting backstory, to say the least. He sort of needs someone to worship and look up to, and that sort of becomes Louis, even though Armand clearly has the upper hand in every situation because he is a 500-year-old vampire. He's the oldest vampire that we meet so far in the show. There's stuff going on. We know Armand does have the upper hand, but he needs Louis in his life. He needs something to latch onto in his life. And we get this wonderful quote from him, one of my favorite quotes from him, after he tells Louis everything that happened to him. He says, "Who am I, Louis? Am I my history I have endured? Am I the job I do not want? I don't know. No one has painted me in over 400 years. He really needs someone to tell him what he needs to do and who he needs to be. He's codependent. So that's an interesting dynamic we get to explore.
Can I just say that Armand is the bane of my existence? And
also Daniel's.
I very much am Daniel this entire season. Because anytime this little gremlin sticks his nose on screen, I just feel myself go, oh. And sure enough, everything. It's not just a little instinct feeling. Because this little brat betrays everyone at every freaking turn that can possibly happen. He has to choose between the Coven and Louis this whole time. And he really can't make a choice. Whereas
I hate to compare him to Lestat, but I feel like there would be no question with Lestat. He's committed to Louis. So, like, there's that already. Lestat is superior. But, anyway, we also do get the reveal that Lestat and Armand had a thing before Louis was ever even in the picture. He kind of falls for Lestat, and then Lestat ends up leaving him high and dry, which, like, that's so right of him. And
we love that. And he never got over it.
Yeah, you basically learn through this story that everything that Armand does is sort of out of spite for Lestat. So that sort of puts a flavor on Louis and Armand's relationship that makes their dynamic even more iffy, in my opinion. Also, I want to start a petition for one of the Vampire Lestat's songs in season 3 to be called Vermouth and Annihilation, because that is how Armand describes him tasting when they kissed. And that needs to be Armand's roast song.
Yes.
Vermouth and Annihilation.
Yes.
Shall we talk about favorite episodes? Mine is episode 5, obviously.
Yes.
Is that before or after your favorite episode?
That's
so that
before.
We can go chronologically. Okay, so remember how I said that this show changes up the original story, so that the original interview did take place in the 1970s, but this is now a redo of the interview 50 years later? Well, buckle up, folks, because we're about to see exactly what happened during the interview 50 years ago. If you're listening to this podcast and you've never seen this show, and I haven't interested you so far, and you don't want to get into a whole 2-season thing, I implore you to just watch this episode. It is a bottle episode, since it takes place almost entirely in one set, and it can work as a bottle episode in that you don't necessarily have to have watched the rest of the show. However, it's also so much more than that. The entire show would not work without this episode. It is the centerpiece of the show. It starts out with Armand leaving for lunch from Dubai during the interview. And what is he having for lunch, you might ask? Well, a human blood, of course. He's going to have his own version of a dangerous game where he sets loose a human and promises to pay him endless amounts of crypto if he escapes. Of course, he will not escape, and Armand will indeed have a tasty lunch. Louis explains... I'm reading my notes verbatim. I'm sorry. Louis...
You sound like you're narrating a documentary.
Okay, listen. I'm going to get somewhere with this. Louis explains that Armand only chooses people who do horrible things for their jobs, like arm dealers and stuff. But if they can't track down one of those guys, he chooses, quote, this is very important, someone halfway in love with an easeful death. Remember that. Now that they've been left alone, Daniel, they've been doing psychological warfare on him, and he's getting flashbacks to the 1970s. And he's like, this is stuff that I don't remember remembering before. And so he's like, now that we're alone, Louis, you need to answer some questions about 1970. He first off starts with asking, why the heck did Armand save my life after you attacked me? Because that's what they explain happened to him. And Louis says, another quote that's very important that you remember. Quote, he could see I was partial to you. Armand preserves my happiness even when I don't or can't. He had a hunch you might prove useful in later times. Remember that freaking quote. Okay, they begin to go through what they both remember, which is that Louis picked him up at a gay bar, took him back to one of his many apartments, offered him a literal backgammon set full of drugs, and began the original interview. A note here as a book reader is that pretty much everything Louis says in this version of the interview is lines from the book Interview with the Vampire. So it's like almost the book Interview with the Vampire is not the real interview. It's the 1970s messed up one. So interesting. Louis talking about the moment where he almost lets the sun come up on him after Claudia leaves New Orleans the second time. And Daniel's like, why would you want to kill yourself? That's so stupid. You have the vampire gift. You can't waste that life. And Louis gets really mad, and this is when he attacks Daniel and almost kills him. And then who comes in? All of a sudden, I hear this agitating, grating voice. Yes, folks, it's Armand, and he's here to save Daniel, so that good for him, I guess. He separates them, and we get the marriage story fight scene to end all marriage story fight scenes. And this is my favorite scene. It's so good. Juicy dialogue. We see years of resentment have been piling up. And why? We don't even really know why yet. Okay, at the end of the fight, Louis starts freaking out. He's starting to get flashbacks of Paris, and he's like, what? And then he's hearing Claudia calling out to him. And then suddenly he's running out of the apartment, and Louis is like, oh my God, I ran out not just out of the apartment, but onto the roof and into the sun. He walked out into the sun and tries to kill himself. And Armand comes and saves him. Again, he's saving everyone, Armand. You have to give it to him. Do you see how, like, the circle of, like, the meaning of life is filling in here? Interesting. Anyway, Louis, like, burnt to a crisp right now. Armand could easily put him in the coffin, give him some of his blood, and he could start to heal. But does Armand do that? Well, no. Armand lets Louis lie on the bed and just suffer for days, basically torturing him, as a way to see what you did to yourself. It's messed up. And also, he decides to torture Daniel, like, in front of Louis, to also be as, like, a see what you did sort of thing. So this is when it becomes Armand's episode, when he goes into the room with Daniel and he's like, I'm gonna mess you up. Or more so, Assad Zaman's episode, the actor who plays Armand. He deserved an Emmy nom for this, and they were not really putting him up for Emmy nominations, which I'm kind of sad about, because rewatch this performance, anyone, and you will see he is a master of being freaking scary. So, he basically, the way that he tortures Daniel is by taking away Daniel's every last hope. He starts by tearing down his job, which is obviously being, like, a journalist and an interviewer. And he's like, this doesn't really mean anything. You, what are you really doing for the world? And then he reads his mind and reminds Daniel of every single bad thing that he's ever done. So this has been going on for 4 days. Louis suffering in the bedroom while Armand is torturing Daniel.
I bet Louis suffered in the bedroom ever since he was with Armand.
True. Okay, so Armand finally concedes to put Louis in the coffin, and he gives him some of his blood. After this, Armand's final mission is to finally kill Daniel and finish cleaning up the mess, as he says. And he gives this amazing, like, chilling monologue in which he, like, speaks about himself as if he were death, and he is going to provide Daniel the comfort he's been longing for this whole time, which is death and the end to it all. And he says, you know, Daniel, you seem like you got everything in front of you now, but you know how this is going to end up. You're just going to have, like, a miserable life with a miserable wife and a miserable family that you're probably going to mess up. And Daniel's like, you know what? You're so right about that. I will let you kill me. Remember how Louis said Armand kills people half in love with an easeful death? Well, yes. Do you see the poetry? Do you see the way that it rhymes? Because also Daniel was mad at Louis for wanting to kill himself as a vampire, because he's like, what do I have to look forward to as a human? But as a vampire, you get everything to look forward to. Interesting. Beautiful. Anyway, right as Armand is about to kill Daniel, Louis walks in and he's like, stop it now. He says, we have to let Daniel live. I think Louis just wants to do it because he feels really bad for Daniel. Louis comes up to Daniel and gives him this speech that we don't see him actually saying. But all of a sudden we flash back to present time in Dubai, and Daniel is like, hold on a minute. He goes to gets his autobiography that he wrote, because he's like an award-winning journalist at this point. And he's like, there was this speech that some junkie guy told me years ago that no matter how bad life gets, I am worthy of life because I am a bright young reporter with a point of view, and I have a purpose in this life, and it has always, like, saved me in dark times. And he realizes that was Louis. Louis told him that, but his mind was so messed with, that he didn't remember it that way. And so it's this beautiful moment between Louis and Daniel, because they've both essentially gone through the same exact thing, where, like, they have felt that life was not worth living anymore. But Louis has kind of lifted Daniel up, and I think Daniel kind of lifted Louis up in the same way, because he saved Daniel. And also, he's, like, getting to trauma dump on Daniel, which is kind of nice. So it's just, like, a really beautiful moment for their relationship. So they've come to realize they don't remember any of this. Armand essentially erased all of this from their memory. Non-consensually erased both of their memories. And who walks in to the Dubai apartment once they figure this out? All of a sudden, I hear this agitating. Armand is back. He did indeed have a tasty lunch. But he's like, what did y'all talk about? And they're like, We talked about the 1970s, and we were wondering why you saved Daniel. And what does Armand say? He says, I could see you were partial to him. I preserve your happiness even when you don't or can't. I had a hunch Daniel might prove useful in later times. Sound familiar? Verbatim what Louis said, which is how we know that he has been manipulating Louis so that Louis's thoughts are not his own. They are Armand's. And that is freaking creepy. And then the very end of the episode, we have close-up Armand, close-up Louis, or close-up Daniel, close-up Louis, cut to black. Amazing. While this like singular piano note plays. It's a masterpiece. This is everything that vampires are supposed to be for me. Because they make Armand look beautiful in this episode, by the way. This is his best look, in my opinion. But he's also so menacing. He is the embodiment of death. And it's like sexy, but also so scary. That's vampires to me. And also everything it says about cherish your life, you know?
Yeah, yep.
I just love it. Anyway, Emily, what are your favorite episodes?
Once again, I can't compare to the soliloquy. Once again, my favorite episode is the finale of season 2. There's nothing I like more than revenge. And after seeing the horrendous betrayal in the previous episodes, the horrendous torture, and finally, of course, the death of Claudia, I was like, okay, I am feeling very pissed off right now, so I don't know what to do. And, well, as it so happens, as Louis gets himself out of this little mess, he's got some revenge to dish out to the theater troupe. And I was so here for it. For every moment of delicious payback. It was just amazing. I love revenge so much. Especially...
Revenge is sweet.
Yes. I mean, The Count of Monte Cristo is one of my absolute favorite tales. So... That episode...
It is female rage-coded.
Yes, very much. Amazing. Chills the whole time. And then, of course, the whole ending. The reveal. The final reveal of the true extent of Armand's villainy. Oh, I didn't know. I mean, I watched this before I watched anything else of the show, and I didn't know what was going on, but I was still like, that little brat! Oh my god! Kill him! And just, the way it's revealed, the way it's written, the way it's acted, the way it's filmed, everything is so perfect. I'm sitting there, just jaw on the floor, like, what? Oh my god, I've been backstabbed myself, even though I saw it coming.
It means so much more when you know all the context behind it.
Yeah.
I feel like we should go over the trial really fast.
Oh yeah, the trial.
Basically, Armand originally is like, I gave up the coven. I'm gonna live a life with you, Louis. Claudia and Louis turn Madeline into a vampire. There's this wonderful moment. Claudia originally doesn't want Louis or herself to turn Claudia because she doesn't want to pass on Lestat's blood, because obviously Lestat is no good. And Madeline has this wonderful quote where she tells Claudia, don't worry about the blood, it's the blood that made you. And it just really sums up the breaking of the cycle of it all. And they were about to do it until Armand apparently sold them out to the coven. The coven somehow got in touch with Lestat. Lestat is back in the flesh, and they are all going to be put on trial. And Lestat is as the star witness to say, they tried to kill me. You know that Lestat doesn't exactly want to be there, but I think we're going to explore that more in season 3. And there are certain things that Lestat says. Obviously, he takes culpability for what he's done. He tries to, at least. He goes off script, because there's no scripting a hurricane. That's a line from the show. I didn't just say that.
I know,
but... he tries to apologize to Louis. Obviously, just apologizing isn't really enough. But, like, you can tell that he feels bad, and he's like, no, I kind of did deserve what they did for me, and that doesn't really go along with what the Coven says. And so it is kind of sad, even though he's like, he is playing it up. Mm-hmm. And he does look amazing in his pinstripe suit. And he does kind of look like a Tim Burton character to me, which really fits the vibe. Even the race element in the trial episode is really interesting because obviously the two black characters are put on a very unfair trial. The white male character is made to look as the victim who was being hunted to begin with. And then, of course, the one white character on trial gets the option to join the Coven instead of being killed. So it's very interesting symbolism that we have going on there. Obviously, Madeline does not take their offer. She's like, no, Claudia is my Coven. Claudia is my companion. And they die in each other's arms, which is such a beautiful moment. And Lestat has to witness it, which, like, he kind of deserves it. Somehow, Louis gets out of dying. Suddenly, the audience says, no, we don't want him to die. We want him to just be banished. And Santiago's like, what the heck? That's not how I scripted it. And we find out that Armand apparently, like, mind dazzled everyone into saying banished and saved Louis. So Louis can go on his wonderful revenge spree where he chops off Santiago's head with a machete. And with this wonderful, like, noir film score in the background. It's so camp and fun, and I love it so much. He's, like, in a trench coat. He's got blood all over his face. Yeah. It's amazing. I need to point out my other Lestat-Claudia parallels. We get into his thing with Nikki. Nikki was a lover of Lestat, who he turned into a vampire, and he could not really handle the dark gift. It kind of drove him insane, and he ended up killing himself. It's kind of a complicated story. He didn't kill himself on his own, but we'll get into that in season 3, I'm sure. And there's a moment in the trial where they're telling the story of how Claudia got turned, and it's different from how Louis originally said it went. And Louis kind of realizes, wait, this is how it actually went. Lestat knew, he warned Louis basically about everything that would happen. He said, it's against the rules, and she's going to have an awful life, and you will love her, and it will spiral beyond your reach. And you can, being a book fan, but also just, like, knowing the story of Nikki more, you know that he's thinking of Nikki when he says this. And so that adds a whole other layer onto his resentment of Claudia, because he's like, I know exactly what's going to happen. I've been through this before, and I have to watch it happen. And obviously he could have said no. He could have not turned Claudia, but he loved Louis so much and he wanted to keep him there. Yeah. It's just a really sad story. Anyway, yes, back to episode 8 reveal. Daniel, they're done with the story, okay? Louis like, all right, we wrapped it up. Let's go have dinner. Daniel's like, hold on. I got some questions. He already knows that Louis' memories are a little messed up. And he also, this whole time, has been in contact with the Talamasca, you might remember. And he's like, let me get my hands on the original script of this trial. Because, again, it's a scripted trial for a stage play. And he gets the script, and he's like, Louis, take a look at this. And in the margins of the script, there are notes. In whose handwriting? Armand's. Armand did not just witness the play and sell them out. He planned and directed the freaking play from the beginning. He was the maestro, if you will. Yep. And that's reveal number 1. Then we get to reveal number 2. Daniel's like, do you remember that one time when Lestat brought a bunch of soldiers to your house at Louis, and then Louis, you told him to kick them all out, and like he did it with his mind? And how many soldiers was that? He was like, oh, it was probably like 30. He's like, that's about the amount of people who were in the theater that night, right? So Lestat could have also saved you. And as we find out, because obviously this was all Armand's plan originally, Louis was supposed to die with Claudia. That was how it was scripted. Lestat was the one who saved Louis. And
this little miscreant has been taking credit for it for how long? When all this time, he wanted him dead from the beginning. Are you kidding me right now? Oh my god. Oh my god, someone killed this man.
In front of my salad?
In front of my salad, too. Oh, god. In that moment, I did want to murder this man. And I pictured doing it.
And I think Louis did, too. Louis would never be able to kill Armand, but I think he got close by just saying, like, get out of my house. I never want to see you again.
I wasn't a happy woman.
No. But I knew from the beginning. I knew. As soon as those people said banishment instead of death, I was like, that was Lestat's doing. There's no heck of a way Armand would do that because he's too wishy-washy. He would never do that for Louis. And I was right.
And another thing is that whole time wasn't he supposed to... They're like, we saw Armand in the corner or whatever, and he was like being guarded or something, so he couldn't help us. Mm-hmm. When really it was just the master watching his show. Mm-hmm. And I think that ties into just all of Armand's character. He plays the part of, I just want to do whatever other people say. I just want to follow you. Blah, 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 blah. When the whole time he knows exactly what he's doing. He wants to be in control. It's himself, and himself. Mm-hmm. He doesn't care about anyone else.
Let's be real, Armand.
Yeah, and I think that right there is like the summary of that. Mm-hmm. He plays the part of, I can't do anything because I'm captured too, when really he was the one who masterminded the whole thing. Mm-hmm. I don't know, man.
Armand, you gremlin.
Armand.
And then we get, once Louis is out of Armand's clutches, where does he go? To New Orleans to find Lestat. And we get just a wonderful scene. You would think in a show like this might be like a, I forgive you and I love you and let's get back together scene. But no, it's not that, and it shouldn't be that. Louis comes to basically like get confirmation. Did you save me? Lestat's like, yeah. And also Lestat...
That's when he's like, all hail me.
Yes. I was right. All hail me. There's some great Lestat quotes in this moment. Lestat's also like living in a shack, eating rats that this other dude catches for him. He's not doing well. So like Louis
pretending to... What's the instrument he's playing?
A piano, but it's a board that he's...
Oh, he's playing... Yeah, he's playing it while like the speaker's going, yeah, so he's just pretending he's playing it.
But he's preparing for his tour, which will be happening in season 3. Anyway.
The world tour.
Yes. Lestat needs to speak his mind after the book Interview with a Vampire comes out. He needs to tell his side of the story because he hasn't. Another important fact about this scene, this is the first time we see Lestat not seen through the eyes of one of the other characters. So this is like the real him, per se. And he's just a broken dude right now because obviously he feels a lot of culpability for Claudia's death, and she's been haunting him ever since, which does happen in the books, and I really hope they get into that because that is some juicy stuff right there. Anyway, Louis is basically there to just say, listen, I want to thank you for giving me the gift and turning me into a vampire. He's always rejected his nature this whole time, but after all of this, and after everything he's learned about himself from the 1970s episode, he's like, no, I do cherish my life. And thank you for giving me so much of it so that I can learn to live honestly, he says. I have so many nights to learn to live honestly. And this is a beautiful moment for Louis. Lestat is not there yet, so he's like, that's great for you, but I kind of hate life right now. And so it just becomes this moment where they are talking. It's just two parents grieving their child, and it's so sad and so beautiful. And then, like, they obviously have this embrace, and that's really all it needs to be. Louis is past the point where he needs Lestat to apologize to him, even though I think Lestat should apologize to him, and it will probably happen later on. But Louis doesn't need that right now. He's beyond that, and he doesn't need to apologize to Lestat. That's not what it's about. It's just them grieving and kind of finding a common ground for now, being like, let's just live our lives and set this behind us. And it's a beautiful way to end it. And it did not happen in the books or the movie, but I love that they added this in. It's my favorite scene.
It's my favorite scene between them.
Yeah. And there is a moment at the very end where they have already embraced, and they're kind of like, you see them kind of talking to each other. It's in the middle of a hurricane, and so like that kind of blocks out the sound. And apparently the showrunner decided, let's have this scene where you two, the actors, say something to each other and no one else knows what it is, and no one else will know what it is. So it was kind of this moment where they got to like take their characters back for themselves and just have like a moment between them as actors that they would just have as a special thing. And I think that's so cool that they did that for them. And it also just adds to the authenticity of the scene and to their relationship. It's just such a beautiful show, and everyone should watch it. And I know I've spoiled it beyond earth, and I've probably gone on for way too long. I hope I can cut most of this out.
This could be our longest episode yet.
I told you that I could go on forever about the show. Is there anything else you wanted to say, first of all?
Oh, just that another reason why this is my favorite episode is because it ends with Louis, King Louis, being finally a single Pringle.
Yes.
And I think that if we move forward with that, he's really gonna, like, find himself and embrace himself and just come into himself. And, like, I think his character has a lot of opportunity now to expand beyond the 2 toxic relationships he got stuck with in the first 2 seasons. Obviously, as a fan of all the messed upness, I would like to see him and Lestat end up together eventually. But I think for now, I really want to see him just be on his own.
Yeah.
And, yeah, just have his moment, you know?
I agree. I also love how, sort of in that end scene, that the Dubai apartment is totally decorated way differently. And you can tell that Louis is, like, figuring out what he likes. And there's a lot of yellow.
Yeah.
He has Claudia's yellow dress and Paul's portrait up on the wall. He gets rid of Armand's stupid tree. And I just love it. And I love how he has fully embraced himself as a vampire and all the beautiful things he is, as you know. And he's like, all these vampires, you're going to take a run at me. I own the night. Like, he is the interview with the vampire. That's Louis right there.
Yes.
I just love it so much. The music in this moment, they brought back The Whole World Was Ready to Return, that beautiful violin piece, the Claudia and Louis theme for me. And, makes me want to cry every time. Everton. And that's how we leave off. And we have been confirmed for season 3. It is coming in 2026. They are filming this summer. I'm so ready. And that is all my blabbermouth has to say about this freaking show.
This review was as long as the movie Sinners that I saw today.
Oh, God, we have to talk about what we watched. I didn't really watch much. Oh, I watched Sinners. Sinners was great. If you love Interview with a Vampire, please do watch Sinners. I feel like there was a lot.
Speaking of musical vampires.
I was going to say the musical part. If you like music, if you like vampires, if you like to think about what vampires mean in the context of, like, a metaphor for a story, this movie is a thinker, and I love it. It was very good and had some good gore.
Yes. And if you like Michael B. Jordan, you get him twice.
That's true. I didn't even realize that until I started watching the movie. I was like, wait, he's twin in this?
We got twins.
We got twins.
That's our review. Kayla's review.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know that I was going to go on that long.
The next time you hear from us, we will be discussing the new Final Destination.
Oh, yeah.
Until then, follow us on all our social medias, and we just want to talk movies. And subscribe to our YouTube channel or wherever you get your podcasts so you don't miss an episode. And that's all for this episode.
And we will catch you on the flick side.